Chief guest of today's international webinar, Honorable Chancellor, Madam Anandiben Patel, Professor Satish K. Tripathi, President, University at Buffalo, USA, Professor Ajay Kapoor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Swinburne University of Technology, Australia, Professor Richard Follett, Deputy Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Sussex, United Kingdom, Professor Stephen Odenwald, Pro-Vice Dean, Cambridge University of Technology, Germany, Professor Sanjay Govind Dhande, ex-director, IIT Kanpur, India, Professor M.P. Punia, Vice Chairman, AICTE, New Delhi, Professor Thomas Stone, Principal, Technology University, Dublin, Ireland. Please wave your hand, sir. Professor Thomas, yes. Distinguished guest, Shri Hemant Raoji, a technocrat, the Additional Chief Secretary, Honorable Governor, Shrimati S. Radha Chauhan, Principal Secretary, Technical Education, Government of UP, Professor Vinay Kumar Pathak, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Professor H.K. Paliwal, Director IIT Lucknow, Professor Manish, Director CAS, Dr. APJ Kalam Technical University, Lucknow, all the Vice Chancellors, Chairmen of the institutions, Directors, Deans, and distinguished attendees from India and abroad. I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart to grace this international webinar on COVID-19, a new normal in higher and technical education. We all know that the mankind is going through an unprecedented experience with widely spreading coronavirus pandemic. Nobody is actually safe until everybody is safe and follows the new norms brought in. We see very clearly that this will change the face of human society. It has far-reaching consequences on all walks of life, the way we do the daily work, our business, and especially the human behavior. So it is true in the case of higher and technical education also. We together are exploring innovative measures and actions that go beyond the pandemic and that are going to set a new normal in higher and technical education. The issues of this webinar include completing the ongoing academics, practical aspects of understanding, students' assessment and examinations, hostel management in view of the measures of social distancing, movement in campus and maintaining hygiene, new quality admissions, managing academic calendar, and many more. We are touched by the generous support and the kind acceptance of our academic leaders and regulators from United States of America, Ireland, United Kingdom, Germany, Australia, and India, 6 countries from the 4 continents of the globe who would be sharing their experiences and the best practices with us today in this webinar. We sincerely respect their time and acknowledge their time zone. Our speakers are in from 8 a.m. in US to 10 p.m. local time in Australia as of now. I once again sincerely welcome all the guests. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Professor Vinay K. Pathak, an alumnus of HBTI Kanpur and IIT Kharagpur, a proactive thinker, energy powerhouse, a motivator, wonderful taskmaster, and excellent team leader for his inaugural address. Professor Pathak, sir.
Honorable Chancellor, our mentor, philosopher, Srimati Anandiben Patel-ji, the eminent personalities from the globe, Professor Satish Tripathi, Professor Ajay Kapoor, Professor Richard Follett, Professor Stephen, Professor S.T. Dhande, Professor M.P. Punia, Professor Thomas Stone, the other senior bureaucrats of the state who is having the educations, Mr. Hemant Rao, Srimati S. Radha Chauhan, the advisor of the Honorable Governor, A. Sampatji, our colleagues in the fraternity of AKTU. I want to first welcome the Honorable Chancellor, who is the mentor and the philosopher of all the universities. Ma'am, it's indeed a big workshop. More than 500 people have just joined, and I think 418 have joined, and rest are on the YouTube. Once we have announced this seminar, more than 1,600 people have subscribed for this kind of a workshop. I want to brief that AKTU is the largest university, the technical university in the state, probably in the Asia. It has got more than 750 colleges affiliated, 2.5 lakh students we have. We have started the digital education at a very early place, and it is now paying its dividend. I always feel that education buildings are closed, the education brick and mortar structures are closed, but the learning has not. Learning has kept on, and we all universities have given it a new normal, and a new normal has come. I always feel that as we have got the pandemic, and as it's a situation of the third world war, which we are facing, but under the great leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi ji, and under the great mentorship of our Honorable Chancellor, Madam Patel ji, the education of UP has taken a different shape. I really want to state at this point that our Chancellor was the first person to make a committee on the online education. She has taken the meeting of all the Vice Chancellors and told that not only we have to give online education, but also we have to reach to the unreached people and do a lot of kind of the social work. It's a real kind of thing which I want really to place on the record, that under the leadership of Honorable Chancellor, our all universities have done a great work in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We have done a lot of innovations. We have reached to the common people. We have reached to the social works. And we are also in the making a new UP in the terms of the education. Although in Uttar Pradesh, we will learn from the brainstorming that we don't have such kind of bandwidth. We don't have internet. A lot of people don't have smartphones. A lot of people don't have laptops. But there are other means like channels and the community radios, which we are ready to going to start. I really want to place, Madam is earlier, our Chancellor was earlier, the Education Minister and the Chief Minister of Gujarat. She started way before in years Vande Bharat channels, which is 18 channels, which is broadcasting all the material to the state of Gujarat. We are trying to have similar thing under the leadership of our Honorable Secretary, who is also sitting there. And we are trying to get this material to the unreached on that kind of thing. I really want to thank to the global leaders in the education. And this is, I think, one of the first seminar and workshop which is happening in the country, where all the global leaders in the terms of the Vice Chancellors and the Pro-Vice Chancellors have come. They have extended our invitations. I really want to thank, and I really want that our leader of the state, the academic leader and the mentor and the philosopher have joined to bless on this occasion. Thank you very much.
Chancellor Madam, Honorable Governor Madam Anandiben Patel ji is a brilliant scholar and gold medalist in her post-graduation. She is a teacher by heart who is retired as a principal of Girls High School, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, India. She is a charismatic and popular leader and has been the member of Upper House of Indian Parliament during 1994-1998. Honorable Madam had been a very popular and dynamic Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat. Before taking over as the First Lady of the state of Uttar Pradesh in July 2019, Honorable Madam had been the Governor of Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. I request Honorable Madam to bless us, please. Mananiya Mahodaya.
Professor Professor Ajay Kapoor, Professor Richard Follett, Professor Stephen Odin, Professor Sanjay Govind, Professor MP Puniaji, Professor Thomas Stone, Srimati Radha S. Chauhan, Professor Vinay Kumar Pathak, Professor Vinit Kansal, As the Chancellor of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow, I welcome all the dignitaries present in the webinar organized by the university. The theme of this webinar, COVID-19, a new normal in higher and technical education organized by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, is very relevant in the current global situation. I am confident that your valuable ideas will prove useful to overcome new challenges and define a new dimension in dealing with the situation arising of COVID-19. The outbreak of the coronavirus has caused problems in the functioning of all countries of the world. Health, medicine, education, business, economy, etc. are all affected badly. The government of all countries, institutions, doctors, experts, and academicians are working together on the construction of a new path for the future in accordance with the present scenario. The decision continuity of education has presented among teachers and prospective torch barriers a very natural concern for the future. Certainly, this is the right time to vindicate the four pillars of education: learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. At present, every aspect of local and global education suffers from the crisis of COVID-19. It has influenced every aspect of life. In the coming times, this horrific crisis will result in a huge change in the outlook of living life. We have to change our lifestyle for our survival and also be ready to face the present and future perspective of COVID-19. As government are trying to revitalize society and resume business, educational institutions, and universities will also gradually reopen their campus to begin the normal teaching learning process. The rules of the social distancing will continue in accordance with the standard operating practices issued by the central and state governments from time to time, which will affect the process of teaching and learning in academic campuses. In the present day teaching process, online learning system was brought up in a very short period of time. It has given impetus to new formats of pedagogy. A tremendous initiative has been taken by academicians and institutions to promote online education. In the last few weeks, higher and technical education institutions have made significant efforts to keep pace with the situation arising out of the present crisis with flexibility. We will certainly have to work in this direction to bring institutional flexibility in higher and technical education. Universities have a great opportunity to prove their credibility in society, that they can serve as sources of knowledge and sources of expertise for the society. Coronavirus related disruption may give teachers time to rethink in the area of education reform. Technology will certainly play an important role in educating future generations and will play a catalytic role in bridging the digital gap in education. At the present time, knowledge is just a mouse click away because of the internet. In this context, one has to consider refining a teacher's role. Since World War II, it has never happened worldwide that all schools and educational institutions have gone into lockdown at the same time and for the same reason. While we know that the impact of this virus will be far reaching and what it may mean in the long term in the field of education, there is a great need to reconsider it. In view of the present crisis, teachers and other people associated with the world of education are emphasizing the need to meditate on how to educate future generations. With regard to all the complications and disputes that have arisen as a result of this crisis, we have to educate our younger generation today, ask some questions from the self, and motivate them to find answers to the questions related to the rationality of the training they are taking. In today's scenario, all the academicians are constantly trying to make contact with the students located in the far-flung areas. If seen in this context, it is not only a good opportunity to assess the analyze this situation, but will also help us in deciding the magnitude and direction of the study of future generation. COVID-19 is an epidemic which shows how globally we are connected to each other. Concepts such as isolated issues and tasks have no existence. Successful people need to understand this interrelationship in the coming decades and work in a collaborative manner globally. Freeing themselves from the bondage of boundaries and eliminating mutual differences. The notion of a teacher as a knowledge holder who imparts knowledge to his or her students is no longer fit for the purpose of 21st century education, especially in the context of the four pillars of learning. When the student is capable of acquiring knowledge through their phone, tablet, or computer and is learning technical skills, there is a need to redefine the role of academician in the classroom. Today, widespread use of technology has become necessary for education. Educational institutions are getting compelled to develop digital distance education material for students of all fields by using available technical capability and resources. To make it possible for students to have access to education, academicians from all over the world have to try new methods along with new possibilities and complete them with full patience. After the end of the pandemic, our higher and technical education system is likely to undergo radical changes in the regular and adult education system. It is noteworthy that mature learners and students are more interested in minute details which allow them to acquire specific knowledge and skills. Perhaps the COVID-19 epidemic may also be commercially opportunity for universities to develop new models that have not been widely available until today. International visiting professors are playing an important role in teaching their courses online and providing international experience at the students' doorsteps, which is commendable. On this occasion, I would like to appreciate the fact that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University has developed the use of e-course materials and video lectures and provided them through the ERP to more than 2 lakh students. The university has also collaborated with other medical research institutes and universities to develop novel medical products. I would like to praise Professor Vinay Kumar Pathak, Vice Chancellor of the university, for his work on social re- relevance, such as running the online Ideathon competition and running the community kitchen in the name of Kalam Annakshetra. I wish the success of this lecture series through this webinar and wish every well. Jai Hind.
बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you so much for your blessings to us. Now we'll start with the first key speaker, and I introduce the key speaker one, Professor Satish K. Tripathi ji. Professor Satish K. Tripathi is an Indian-American computer scientist and academic administrator. Currently, he is the first international-born president of the University at Buffalo, the flagship of the State University of New York SUNY system. Previously, he served as provost of University at Buffalo during 2004 to 2011. Professor Tripathi grew up in India and came to United States in 1978. He was the faculty member for the many years at the University of Maryland, where he also served as a department chair of the computer science. He is alumnus of BHU University and the University of Toronto and Alberta. He is internationally recognized as an accomplished researcher and transformative higher education leader. I request Professor Satish K. Tripathi sir to address, please.
Could I use the share document?
Yes, please. Please share your document, sir.
Honorable Madam Governor, Professor Pathak, Professor Bansal, Professor Dhande, good to see you there, and guests. So as you heard, I actually am from UP, and I was born in a village in Ambedkar Nagar, got my early education in Ambedkar Nagar, went to GIC Faizabad and then BHU and came to Canada. So I really am aware of the institutions in the area. What I'm going to talk about today is more of what we are planning as opposed to what we have been able to do. So we are in a semester, this is the last week of the semester. During the middle of the semester, we were completely closed. Within a week, we transformed 4,000 lectures into online lectures. Before the COVID-19, less than 10% of our classes were either online or in mixed mode. And going from almost 10% to 100% classes online, that was a tremendous feat. And this was really because of the faculty that we have. So let me give you a notion of what the university is, its scope and scale. We have about 31,000 students from about 106 countries and 50 states, about 6,000 employees, 2,400 and so faculty. These includes our clinical faculty in the medical school as well. Our research and development expenditure per year is about $400 million, and the annual revenue is about 1.7 billion. Again, we are very international, about 268,000 alumni across 150 countries, and top 25 in terms of number of international students. So when we started the planning, we really want to be a place-based, face-to-face education institution. But as you'll see during this experiment, during these 8 weeks, a lot has changed actually. The faculty members who said that they would never teach online actually are enjoying it, and they want to now use online for a lot more discussion in the class. One of my law faculty, and law was one of the faculty that was almost last to accept the online, they actually said that they have found really a great source now to use for discussion online. They still would like to go back and teach. So we hope that we don't change the institution completely, but as Honorable Governor said, we would be a totally changed institution on the other side of the COVID-19 whenever it comes. So the two, while we're planning it, by the way, this is the same presentation I gave to my faculty. So it's really, this is what we're talking about on our campus. There are two highly related concurrent issues here. And there's one is financial issue where actually we are a state university, about 15% of our revenue comes directly from the state. The rest is tuition and other sources. So when the state revenues are down and the costs are up, this will lead to a budget shrinkage. We already have been told there might be about 15 to 25% budget cut coming in. The other part really is, while we ourselves want the campus to come to a normal operation, we have to prepare that it may not be really normal operation. So we have to prepare for the affected enrollment. One of the things we found was that our undergraduate students were not very happy. They said we came to study and have the experience at the campus, and now we are really getting this online. This is not what we signed up for. And some of the surveys show that many of the students are going to take gap year. That means they probably would not come to the college, go somewhere else, do some other things before they really think about coming to the campus. So they're going to be really important impact on the enrollment. There would be important impact on the curriculum delivery. As we all know that it's not all online teaching. You have to have lab experiences. You have to have experiential learning in many professional schools. And many of the research labs are closed right now, except for the labs that are working on the COVID-19. All other labs are closed. So how do we really get to that stage? And when we come back, and if we still have social distancing, how do we prepare the campus? So we are looking at not only the fall of 2020, but we are looking at the whole academic year and how we're going to be really preparing for that. So we actually are looking at possibilities of taking positions out. That means saving money through that, delaying the capital projects and other expenses that we have, like travel and software upgrades and so on. So this is really something not necessarily related to the academic delivery, but it is going to impact the academic delivery. So this is something that we're working on. And as I said before, we have been asked to think about major cuts. So I look at the delivery aspect of the system. So we got on one side the place-based delivery, on the other side the sort of the online delivery, and we used to be on the orange dot for a very long time, and now we are on this blue dot or green dot actually on the right side. So it's really changed completely from place-based to distant learning. Now this is really something that is coming from many different directions. As we plan for the fall, it's going to be really a lot of public health issues. Is testing for a virus and the antidote widely available? Many of us, and we are also planning that we will test everyone coming to the campus. So we'll provide about 40,000 tests right in the beginning. We will also monitor and do the antibody testing before as well, but we'll also monitor and have testing available, as well as isolation and quarantine facilities available for the students. So we have to really look from the public health perspective. I'm not a public health official, but we follow the state and the county guidelines in terms of where we are. New York State is slowly moving to open a few things on 15th of this month, but for higher education and for education in particular, I don't think anything is going to happen for next couple of months. So we really are talking about long term. And all of these terms that you have heard, I'm sure, are going to play a major role as we go further. Now, the economic impact is going to impact who is going to come back to the campus. So that is going to be, if there's a lot more unemployment, are the kids going to come to the campus where the parents don't have job? Are the students going to come to the campus, whether it's online or not online, really, if the job outlook is not very good? What are they going to choose? And all of that, whether the family can afford the college, how soon the job's going to come back, these are all really, these are unknowns. What I'm trying to convey here is really that there are a lot of unknowns in this process. As some of the, I used to do a lot of optimization, and in optimization field, in computing, you can do optimization. In a lot of these fields, actually, you have certain variables that might be unknown, but you have some variables that actually are known. And then you can try to do sensitivity analysis for unknown variables and try to predict things. Here, actually, every variable is unknown. These changes are gonna, for example, what would happen to our international students? We have about 5,000 international students from all over the world, undergraduate, graduate, as well as the postdoc. So the travel restrictions, the quarantine requirement, the xenophobia that exists, all of that are going to have an impact. We are not isolated from what's going to happen in the society, and we have to consider that. One of the things that really has created quite a bit of problem for the students, even in this environment, before the COVID-19, the mental health of college-going students is a major issue. And with this COVID-19, it has really, really increased that quite a bit. And we're dealing with that, but this is really a major issue. The college experience have been what students wanted to do, but then a lot of things gonna be changed, and how do we deal with these? So I put together this very complicated sort of planning graph for us to understand what's gonna happen. So there are exogenous factors I talked about, whether it's the travel, whether it's really the economy, whether it's gonna be the visa issues for the students, for the job market, the financial situation for the parents. All of that is going to really have a factor on the curriculum delivery. If we have to social distance, the classroom that used to hold 200 students, now you probably hardly can put about 50 of them or 30 of them. So do we go to a hybrid model where some students are in the class and you rotate those students, 1/3 one time, second 1/3, and so on? So the curriculum delivery becomes very important. One of the things that we found is that transitioning this semester wasn't as bad because half of the semester was in-person class. So there was a relationship between the faculty and the students. But I think it's going to be very hard to transition totally online, especially for 18 to 21-year-old kids, if they don't have a relationship with the faculty. So curriculum delivery is important. That drives the enrollment mix. If our curriculum is going to be totally online, we may not get the students that we usually get. That's going to drive the enrollment count, and all of that is going to drive to the budget implications with tuition and auxiliary revenue, our major source of incomes that come in. There also is going to drive the student life. And one of the major things we have found is that we can teach online, but how do we evaluate the students online? And that's really, this is exam week for us, and we are working on that as well. And of course, the information technology plays a major role, the need for that, which we have on the campus, but as the governor talked about, there are students who don't have the same level of connectivity, and they are disadvantaged. And then, of course, all of that being a research university, it really impacts our research enterprise. And, how do we, right now, we are actually paying our research students and research scholars and so on, but no work is getting done. So how long can they sustain if the work is not done actually? So that's another part. So can we come to the status quo? I think it's about as hard to predict, but probably one can say it's going to be very hard to come to the status quo. It's going to be something in between. There's a high likelihood that it would be online. Although all my colleagues, if you read the other university presidents, including us actually, we are saying that we are preparing for status quo coming back, but we are preparing for everything in between. So here are some scenarios actually. You can think about maybe we can only bring 1/3 of the students on the campus. Who do you bring in? Do you bring in the freshmen, the first year students that can get this experience they need? Do we bring in the seniors because this is the last year and they need to do a lot of other learning as opposed to just courses? Do we bring the international students? How about the professionals? So actually, if you go and try to model it a little more detail, you have to really think about who comes on the campus, who doesn't come on the campus. And one of the other things that we have to really worry about, which is very important, is can our faculty and staff come on the campus? 30% of our faculty is above 60. We don't have an age limit on retirement here. So really bringing them on the campus, do we generate extra level of a problem for them, for their health? So we need to take care of that as well, and many of the staff as well. So it's really, sorry. So we need to plan in face of uncertainty. And I've talked about really, we need to worry about the revenue, we need to worry about the students' education, the research that we do, and we really want to come to what we used to be, but I don't think we can come there. But we have given a guiding principle for planning framework that no matter what, we want to continue to be a top. We are number 31 in the research universities. We want to get to top 25. We have formed committees. About 200 people are involved in terms of campus engagement to define what it is, because at the end of the day, the presidents don't define what happens. The faculty and staff who work here, they'll make most of the decisions. So we have really a lot of communication, everything going on. And I'll end with this final slide here, which talks about really different committee structures that I have put together. So we have academic continuity, retention, and completion. And we have these deans leading that and some of the vice presidents leading that. Undergraduate, clinical and practical education is totally different. If you're a nursing student, if you are a medical student, dental students, it's a different requirement. How do you work with the hospitals? Then, of course, the graduate and professionals who require a lot more research activity. So that's one committee working on. Then we have faculty, graduate, professional research, just the research aspect. Student experience, because that's really very important for the students on the campus. And again, the faculty and staff wellness is as important. And in order to do all that, how would the campus provide the operational activity? And then we have a planning committee that monitors that, and of course the finance committee. And my provost is leading that, and then provost sends this to me, and then we'll decide what to do. So with that, I'm going to end, and hopefully this was just a snapshot of how we are planning. I'm sure that many of you are thinking same things or similar things, and we all in together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It was very, very comprehensive, summarized thought process which you have shared with us. And you have very rightly said, there are a lot of parameters, almost all the parameters are unknown. We are struggling and experiencing these unknown parameters, and then trying to model with our own common sense and God's wishes. Yes, it's an issue of bringing the faculty in campus and people who are engaged into the research where the age is not the limit, and how to comprehend the learning and teaching with online. Sir, there are one or two questions which has come up, which I would like to take up with you. The one is, how do we take up the issues of students comprehending the knowledge in online mode, which has been, as you have shown, the slide has moved, or the shift has been from one continuum end to the another end of the continuum. So how does it impact actually the understanding of the students, and are the students satisfied in terms of their technology-based courses understanding? Are they happy, and how do you see this parameter That is number one. And number two is, how do you see the future of labs, which is virtual labs, and how do you see, how this is going to take up? Because labs are very, very important in technology, and how do we do that? Thank you, sir.
Sure. So on the first question, actually, it's a very important question. We have been surveying our students every other week. So we send out surveys with the questions, and we are trying to get their feedback. The first week was, our first couple of weeks were almost like honeymoon. People were excited that we are still able to continue. What we found in the later weeks was that it was very hard for our undergraduate students, actually. For our graduate students, it wasn't as hard. They're more mature students. The undergraduates had a lot more difficulty. They were complaining, and that's probably true. They were complaining that in an online course, the faculty members are giving more homework assignments, more reading assignments, and which is true. Actually, we have found this nationally, that it seems we as a faculty members, we feel that now they're home on online, they can do a lot more work. So that has become really an issue as well. So for the pedagogy aspect that you asked, this is really what we are working with our faculty members in Graduate School of Education, other places, to figure out. I think there would be more and more experience with the technology. If it's totally online in the fall, there would definitely be, we would have more experience, the students will have more experience, there would be more group experience as well. But I don't think for undergraduate education, we can really go 100% and assume that the learning is going to be the same. So that's really something that, as I said before, the learning was easier this semester because we knew our students for 7 weeks or 8 weeks, and we only had to transfer for the last 7, 8 weeks. So that really was the major issue. In terms of the second question, so the first question, in short, I really don't have a clear-cut answer, but I think we're all working on that. And people have been working on it for a long time. One good thing that come out of it is really all this innovation is gone. Everybody is now at least doing some level of online. Now it's really improving that, right? I mean, so that's really a good part if you want to use it. The second question was really labs and so on. I think we have to bring the students, we might have to do a distance, social distancing with them in the lab, which means the labs are going to be running 24 hours a day, which means that, but you can't really, you might be able to teach half a semester of lab on simulation, but you can't really have a medical student doing simulation. I mean, they have to work in the lab. You can't have a chemistry lab totally on simulation, but, and so we have to really get to the, we can do the computer science labs on simulation, but the rest of it have to be really in person. I think one of the groups that's in my planning is really just working on that. How would we do that? Maybe we don't require lab every week. We can combine that as well, but we still have to have some level of in-person experiential learning.
Thank you so much, sir. There's one more question, probably the last question to you, and before going to the next panelist. What will be the effect on the placements of the students in the post-COVID scenario? How do you see the situation, sir?
So that actually depends on the economy, right? As we had that picture there. So that depends on economy. So far, some technical economic factors, at least from IT sector, it seems like they're doing all right. But if other people are not buying their products, if the economy is not good, it's all cycle, right? So I think the impact is going to be more based on the economy as opposed to based on the mode of education, right? So it's really, how we teach the student. As long as we are satisfied that we're giving them good education, they're going to come out with good education. So the job situation is really based on economy. I still heard some students are doing their interviews online and getting offers actually from some of the companies online, and they've been asked to work online. So I mean, as long as the economy is good, some of those will get jobs, but definitely it seems like it's going to be 2008 all over again, that whole economic situation. But one of the things in higher education, when the economic situation is down, this is the time people want to get more education. get ready for the economy to come up. So that's the positive aspect, if there's any.
Yes, true. In fact, the students' motivation, one of the biggest motivation, at least in the South Asia region, is they go for these kind of technical education and they spend money because they get a good lucrative jobs. So I think, yes, it is important. Knowledge is very important, and I think new model of jobs and new kind of jobs would be emerging, and this could be changing the paradigm. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And now we'll go to the next keynote speaker here, Professor Richard Follett. I'll introduce him with the other of the panelists. Professor Richard Follett is an Associate Vice President and Deputy Pro Vice Chancellor International at the University of Sussex, Birmingham, UK. He oversees Sussex international strategies, strengthening its profile overseas through a global network of collaborations in research, teaching, and innovation. In addition to this role, he is a professor of American history and a specialist on the history of slavery and emancipation. He completed his PhD at Louisiana State University on the Fulbright Scholarship and has held visiting appointments in Nigeria, China, and Germany. He is a passionate advocate for international education, a frequent visitor to India, and works extensively throughout the globe. So, Professor Richard Follett, all yours now.
Thank you very much indeed. And I will begin by sharing my screen.
Please.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Chancellor, Governor, Vice Chancellor, Professor Pathak, and Professor Kansal. It's an honour to be speaking with you today from my home here in Brighton, England, quite different from our usual workplace offices back on the campus at the University of Sussex. It's an honour to be with you, distinguished guests, and I know that we have representations not just from the United States and Ireland and Germany and Australia, but we have representatives listening in from across the Indian university sector. So it's a real delight to be joining with you today, and our thanks to everybody at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University in Lucknow for their invitation. The COVID-19 pandemic has unleashed the greatest challenge to international education since the Second World War, indeed perhaps ever. 4 months ago, I was in Hangzhou, China, visiting one of our university partners. Wuhan was beginning its lockdown, but like so many, we all were oblivious to the oncoming challenge. By early February, the first cases of COVID emerged in the United Kingdom with salacious media stories of super spreaders transmitting the disease. Within weeks, universities in South Korea, Italy, and Spain had suspended in-class teaching, and by the end of March, Europe and much of the world was in lockdown. The devastation wrought by the virus has been extreme, from the grim tally of deaths on Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center to the unparalleled costs triggered by furloughing millions of workers, all from the public purse. And as Professor Tripathi has observed just a few minutes ago, the impact of coronavirus is both immediate, it has a mid-term consequence, and it has long-term implications for higher education. And I'd like to turn to those three areas in my observations today. But let's start with the students themselves, because it's absolutely right to say that so many of them have been transformed, as have we all, by the epidemic. Whether we're based in India, the UK, or Wuhan itself, coronavirus has become a new international language. It's a common reference point that unites us in a common experience wherever we are in the globe. Our students and those who will graduate into a deep but hopefully short-lived recession can now add coronavirus to their common language, alongside climate change and globalization, words that were at the forefront of our students' thinking just a matter of months ago in our country, Brexit included, of course, but now COVID-19 dominates and will continue to dominate for the next enduring years, one feels. In many respects, as the theme of today is, COVID has become a new normal. It's a global language that describes and defines these extraordinary times, a common reference point that hopefully pushes us towards greater international collaboration, be that in research, teaching, or the role that we play as university leaders in our local communities or in our national recovery plans. I think universities have a critical role to play in the coming months and years, in fact. And as Melissa Leach, the director of Sussex's world-leading Institute of Development Studies notes, COVID-19 is revealing, reinforcing, and transforming our social and cultural relations. It's laying bare inequalities and anxieties that had been masked in many Western economies, but it's also, critically, it's galvanizing solidarities and it's galvanizing collective action. And I think there are enormous opportunities for our university communities to move forward from the immediate crisis using both research on COVID, but also on the social and economic implications of the pandemic to really unify our world university community. At Sussex, like so many universities around the world, Buffalo included, we shifted from the traditional classroom, the in-person classroom, to the online classroom almost 2 months ago. This involved a breakneck transition from traditional pedagogies to online learning and teaching, moving literally thousands of hours from large lectures to smaller seminars, tutorials, and even some practical experiments and laboratory-based experiments onto a digital platform. We had, earlier this year, rolled out an ambitious new education agenda. We call it our pedagogic revolution. But at the heart of that vision was using technology-enabled approaches to student learning. We wanted to really transform our educational pedagogy well before COVID-19 had hit. We wanted to introduce Gen Z and TED-style talks. We wanted to use technology to support inclusive learning. Sussex has long been known for its interdisciplinary approaches to education, but in many respects, COVID-19 has accelerated that process. It's accelerated this pedagogic revolution. It's accelerated our own shifts in our thinking about interdisciplinary teaching and the relationship between disciplines as we explore some of the challenging questions that are going to come out of the pandemic. In that transition, if you like, in that pedagogic revolution, of course, we had to tackle many technological and what were long thought to be intractable problems, both within our faculty and within our students that there would be an intrinsic aversion to online learning and online teaching by both areas of the university. COVID-19, of course, has enabled us to fundamentally rethink our higher education provision. And in the words of my Director of IT Services, Jason Oliver at Sussex, we've really forced a key question into our own mind, and it's here on the slide. We live in an on-demand society. We live in an on-demand culture. Yet until very recently, we were still teaching students like it was the 1990s when I went to university, and perhaps some of you did too. That comment is spot on, I think, and I'm guilty myself. We consciously updated our lectures, didn't we? But our format, our chalk and talk style was closer to the medieval university than to the fast-paced, on-demand structures of modern 18 to 25-year-olds. For all its challenges then, COVID-19 has forced the often slow-moving higher education sector to embrace rapid digital-led change. In our context, and picking up from where we were in Buffalo a few minutes ago, in our case, that included the full optionality and utility of the Canvas learning management platform, Panopto lecture capture, virtual desktop infrastructure, and of course the video technology that we're currently using. But most importantly, what this was enabling us to do was not just deliver content online, but it was also enabling us to widen content online, using closed captioning, for example, to support our students, many of whom English is not their first language. And I'll come on to Sussex in a few minutes, but our international student population is 1/3 of our student population. So we're roughly around 6,500 international students on campus. Has this become a new normal? Well, perhaps. But what is a new normal, and will that normal last? And I think the observations from the president a few minutes ago of the University of Buffalo were accurate. In terms of the next academic cycle, that is to say, fall 20 and spring 21, we're going to be in a transitioning mode, officially offering in-class instruction, but at the same time preparing for all eventualities. We can do no different across the sector, whether we're in the United States or the UK or anywhere for that matter. But I also think that as we move forward, what we're going to see is the use of much more blended opportunities. It's unlikely that students will want to return completely to an online service, but they are likely to want to integrate to a much greater extent, the online capabilities that we have unlocked from the COVID period. I think there are some immediate short-term problems, and I think my colleague from Buffalo indicated them a few minutes ago. That is to say, the relationship between faculty and students. And I think while most students have accepted online delivery this semester, starting in the new academic year, when they don't know their faculty, they don't know their peer students, is going to be different. And whether they're so forgiving, and I think they have been in many respects, about the delivery quality over the immediate period in September and October, is something that we're tackling at the university. In fact, our executive team had that conversation this morning, whether we would have to effectively pause research for this summer to allow faculty to upskill to a degree to which they would be then delivering top of the line online provision for the fall. I think there's also a concern about Zoom fatigue amongst many students. In the traditional classroom, of course, we could gauge the nuanced response of our students, often to controversial topics. But as video conferencing accelerates, psychologists are discovering that virtual interactions can be extremely hard on the brain, extremely taxing. And in effect, it too is transforming the pace and quality of the student learning. What we do online is clearly not going to be identical to what we do in a classroom. And the learning models that psychologists are looking at indicate that we're going to have to shorten teaching into smaller pieces that students will engage with, but also being able to produce synchronous conversations, often using this type of technology, such as Zoom and others. Despite this, then, we need to ask our question, is the distance revolution working? And are we at that transformative moment in which universities begin to topple over into an online space? Well, it is just too early to say as yet, but I think there are some key issues that we need to tackle also as university leaders, and particularly in an international context, and that's around inequalities. Because as we move faster down the digital road, it also limits the availability of that education to many students from different parts of the world, of course, but also students, as the president of Buffalo observed, university students in a domestic setting who also don't have access to some of those IT issues. And let's be candid about it. Private distance learning providers, IT networks, the entire edutech industry is hugely costly. And fundamentally, it's based on the robustness or not of web access. It's also based on the ability to navigate the VPN networks in China. In some parts of the world where the internet remains incomplete, the most robust platforms for online educational engagement lie with the 2G and 3G cell phone bandwidth. And I think as education providers, and this comes from the fact that I was a visiting faculty for a semester at the University of Lagos in Nigeria, as education providers, we need to be thinking, what can we deliver by the internet? But also, how is our product, how is our education going to be streamed when the internet isn't the delivery platform, but actually other forms such as the 3G network? Layered into that conversation, of course, comes the thorny issue that we've heard about earlier today, which is resource allocation. Where does resource allocation lie, which enables universities and students to build the kind of digital infrastructure that we need? At Sussex, a university of about 20,000 students, we were founded back in the 1960s. And today we're very much engaging with a new international strategy and a strategy for our own educational offer. As you can see here, 1961, a new map of learning for interdisciplinary studies. We're rethinking that at this moment. So in many respects, at the present crisis moment, COVID-19, while extraordinarily tragic, of course, is also an accelerator. It's a catalyst for many university strategies as we move forward, not just in the education space, but I think crucially in some of our broader strategy positions too. I want to finish, however, with a few observations about international students, because in the UK, as in Australia and in the United States, international students are a vital component of our university lives. And the potential impact of a sharp fall in international student numbers is a very grave threat to many Western universities. As my colleague from Buffalo indicated, it and contractions of state funding in the US context represents a major financial issue for Western universities. And that is very gravely true in the United Kingdom. I think as we move forward, and this picks up really on Professor Tripathi's prognostics for Buffalo, as we move forward, I think we will expect to see many more mergers of British universities. That might include the fusion of technical and higher education learning onto one campus. But I do expect to see universities in the forthcoming 6 to 18 months, begin to seek direct funding from the UK government for bailouts, or in fact the merger of that. At Sussex, we need creative solutions, not just in the teaching and learning agenda, but I think, as my president, Professor Adam Tickell, observes, we need creative solutions that enable us to engage, not just with the crisis point of COVID, but where do we move beyond this? And absolutely key is ensuring that our employability agenda is at the very forefront of our thinking as universities. How do we deliver the future-proof, skilled graduates that employers want, not just immediately, but down the line? As we've observed, 2008 was a severe economic contraction to global job creation. We should expect the same and worse in the coming months. It's crucial then that as universities move forward, that we re-engage our employability agenda and we ensure that our students are supported to every degree that we can. We mustn't let coming austerity, force us as universities into a narrower version of ourselves. Instead, I think universities need to be the best and can be the best when they're embedded in their localities, whether that's Lucknow, Buffalo, Chemnitz, or elsewhere, deeply embedded in their localities, but deeply internationalist in vision. Universities like mine, and I think many of the others today, are intrinsically internationalist in vision in both our teaching and research. And I think that internationalist perspective will remain very much part of the new normal. And like other universities in our sector, we're actively supporting and engaged in what's called the We Are Together campaign to support international students in the United Kingdom and, moreover, to support UK universities in their fight against coronavirus. Of course, there have been some very, very distressing accounts of international students stranded in the UK and elsewhere in the world, and repatriation flights are currently operating. Universities UK International, which represents all 147 British universities, and our student support teams are and continue to provide assistance mechanisms, some of which were reported in the Hindustan Times yesterday. As the COVID epidemic has reinforced, not only do we need student support as vital components of our university engagement, but we need a vital sector-wide approach to support our international students in the UK and elsewhere.
Professor Richard?
I'm finishing in my last couple of comments.
Sir.
The long-term impact remains to be seen. Historians of the future will no doubt talk about public health policies, and our desire for international travel will remain unchecked. But as a professor of history, I've spent my career thinking about continuity and change, which happens most often. And in history, most of the time, evolution, not revolution, is more significant as drivers of historical change. And as we move forward from the COVID-19, I think we will see a new normal, but I think it's a new normal that will be shaped more by evolution of teaching and learning rather than a revolution in them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm noting the questions, but we'll take the questions, and then after the next talk. So I'll request now Professor Ajay Kapoor. I'll just briefly introduce him. Professor Ajay Kapoor is a Pro Vice Chancellor Research at Swinburne University, Australia. He studied at IIT BHU and Cambridge University. After 2 decades in UK academia, he moved to Australia in 2007. For research, he has received several prizes and has published 3 books and over 250 papers. He is on the editorial board of IMAC-E JRRT. He has led the American Society for Mechanical Engineers UK and Ireland chapter as chairman. He has been on Swinburne University Council and has been a board member of VCAMM Australia. Currently, he is Pro-Chancellor of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth, India. I'll request Professor Ajay Kapoor to kindly address, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll just share the screen. And I'll take this opportunity to thank Honorable Governor Anandi Behan, Vice Chancellor Professor Pathak, and particularly Professor Vineet, you, who has been very, I would say, sort of helpful in helping me set it all up, all the distinguished guests, and several of them are my friends as well. What I'll do is to tell you how Swinburne University is coping with COVID, what steps we have taken, how we are going about it. So we are based in Melbourne, primarily. We have got about 25,000 students here. About 15% of them are international students. We got a campus in Malaysia with about 3,500 students there. And we operate in many countries through our partners, like in Sri Lanka, Singapore, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. We have got about 1,500 PhD students, but we have got a thriving network of partners in about 20 countries. And 300 of our PhDs are partner PhD students who are based in those countries with our partners there. We have got about 8,000 students who are fully online. So this is a part of our university started about 8 years back as Swinburne Online, where everything is online. So we did start with a bit of experience in this area. We are quite active in research and within the top 100 for several subjects and generally in about 2 or 3% of the universities in the world. Now, as we can see, COVID affected our teaching, it affected our research, it affected administration, and actually it endangers our financial sustainability. Now, our take on this was that our existing long-term business plans, in fact, all universities and all businesses, long-term plans have been interrupted. Currently, there is much uncertainty. There's so many unknowns. We just don't know when will the lockdown period end, which states in Australia for us and other countries will allow travel, what will the quarantine requirements be. So with that, we thought that we should have business continuity and we should have a very agile and pragmatic decision-making system. We have to move all teaching online. There's no other way at this time to do that. So we took a couple of decisions. One, we created a COVID-19 task force. All the key decision makers at the very top level are part of that. Initially, it began to meet virtually daily. But then when things became a bit normal, they are meeting only once a week now. But if needed, we can meet on a weekend as well. We needed rapid implementation. We have got a system where we have faculties, within faculties, we have schools and the traditional departments, and then we have the staff members. We wanted all of them to work very closely together. So very collegial background to that. And we were very mindful that our staff and students are affected by COVID as well. So we can't just go and direct them to do something. We have to be mindful of what they are going through. Another issue we tackled was that communication should come from a single source. So one source of truth. So we created a wiki secure area for our staff, web pages for our students, frequently asked questions, which we very regularly update, and FAQs even for staff members if they are contacted by students, so that one single answer is going to everybody who is affected. Regular updates are sent out by the Vice Chancellor, and it points towards that web page and that resource as well. And then a couple of points on the right-hand side of the screen I'm showing you. For teaching, to maintain continuity, we requested every teacher to assign a deputy, so that if the person himself or herself gets COVID, then we have somebody else to teach. And then if that also is not possible, we have got all the material stored in an accessible location so that we can get a third person to teach. We have got many PhDs and masters by research students, and they can't access the lab. So we asked them to update their research plan and use this lockdown period to do, let's say, desk research or write a paper or write at least part of their thesis. And for doing that teaching transfer to online and PhD and MRS paper writing, etc., we created a lot of support and put it online. For research, it's a big problem. Labs are inaccessible, procurement problems are there, material is not coming. So our deliverables will be delayed. If deliverables are delayed, then we will have payment difficulties. So we have been contacting all the funders and telling them that there may be delays. And then we are planning scenarios for post-COVID recovery as well. So basically, we are seeing that things will open, but there'll be a big issue to do with social distancing, which takes the capacity of the classrooms away, labs away, even offices away. But we are planning for that. So for continuity in teaching, what we did was that we went for asynchronous teaching. So rather than doing it online when all students are assembling at a particular time, we said that no, teachers should record and then students can listen to it whenever they like, and how many times they want to listen, they can do that. We did not want any live streaming. The reason was that staff students are having many pressures, many crises, and having everybody attend a single slot for a lecture is totally impossible and unrealistic. We went for low fidelity as a baseline. Even in Australia, internet connection is quite fine, but we knew that when everybody is using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or some other method, the speed will go down. Plus the student may be somewhere there is no connectivity, or the teacher may be somewhere stuck with no connectivity. Then we did not want to go for very different kind of tools. We wanted to stick with just one or two tools so that teachers don't have to learn new things and the students don't have to learn anything new. We have been using Canvas as our learning management system, so we totally focused on that. And then, even though there is a lot of pressure on us to rethink our teaching and learning approach, we are at this time saying that be very cautious with it. Even though people are promising totally virtual experience for lectures, labs, tutorials, but we are saying let it come later. Let us do whatever bare minimum we can do, but do it well. This is the support that we provide to our teachers, and we have got two ways of doing it. In fact, it's all very complementary. We have got a learning transformation unit at the university level. So all generic stuff sits there. So you can see many things like guidance for teaching online, tools for delivery of lectures, and many things which staff now can access totally online from anywhere. Then we have got in our faculties, faculty associate deans who are linked with learning transformation. Their role is to do that. They've got their own staff to help out people using this information for their own specific subject areas. So all that help is available, and they could transform their subjects from simple face-to-face teaching to online delivery. A lot of student support exists at our place, like in many other universities. So when students come, orientation week is there, and we have a very strong program called Strategies for Success. We moved all that online. We have a peer mentor program that is online. We have a professional purpose program which runs all the way through to their graduation, and we made that online as well. All students can access support. So there is this Studiosity, which many universities use, and we also use that 24/7 student support available through them. We have Academic Skills Center, and that is also online now. In many faculties, they've got, like in our faculty of science and technology, we have got maths and stats help center, we have moved that online. So all that support has been moved online. We provide students other support, and we have created some new forms of support as well. Like if a student hasn't got a good quality laptop, they can take it from the university. We have created a student emergency fund, and we have put some money from the university, and we have collected some money from charitable funding organizations as well to help students who are in some financial distress. And then there have been some dates which government wanted us to stick to, but we have given students extra time to come to those decisions about choosing what subjects they are going to study. We have got many programs which are requiring, let's say, 6-month or a year placement in a company. We call that professional degrees and placements. We were very lucky that most of those companies allowed our students to get that experience online. So except maybe about 3 or 4% of cases, overwhelmingly, everybody has been able to continue that. So some of those, plus some areas like nursing, where hospitals being so much in demand nowadays are unable to give us any training slots, we are keeping those students and their study needs for next semester or whenever things become normal. So we will change our curriculum, let's say sequencing, to ensure that they get that help whenever they need it or whenever we can supply that. We had many students on international exchanges and study abroad. We could inform them in time, we could get them back to Melbourne or go back, and we could ensure that they could join something here or in their host country. So luckily, all that has moved decently well. Exams pose a major issue. We all know that. We generally rely on around the semester assessment, plus majority is a final exam. But in final exams, we find that we can't quite promise that now, but we can have at least something which can assess the student progress. So we basically just went for the Bloom's taxonomy, which we are using anyway to look into knowledge, comprehension of knowledge, application of knowledge, analysis, synthesis, and all that stuff. And we could find some online way of assessing the student. What we have done there is that the final exam period, that particular time, has now become the final assessment period. We have empowered our teaching staff to come up with their own way of assessing the student. And we have requested them to make sure that if they are reconfiguring their assessment, they must comply with all the university regulations, policies, and our regulators' policies as well. Now we come to academic progress. We are very mindful that during this unprecedented period, teaching has not been as good as we would have liked it to be. Learning would also not be as good as the students will like it to be. So the grades that they are getting may not be the best that they would have got. For that, what we have done is that the results for this particular period will not disadvantage the student for the merit-based honors calculation. Also, if they receive a fail, we will not record that in their transcript. And then they can progress on to the next part. Now, we also have a system where we look at how students are moving. Sometimes, if they're not doing well, we put them at risk, which means that we put some more resource into them. Or if they really fail, then they become unsatisfactory to progress. So we will let them move on this time, but they will be conditional, that they have to engage with the support services that I was telling you about. We have seen that there are some good things coming out of this forced online teaching as well. So we are taking note of that. We regularly conduct our interviews to find out from students feedback, which things are working well, which things are not working well. And we are hopeful that things that they are liking, we can carry them forward when we reassess all this. Post-COVID, this I'm showing you for our Malaysian campus. There the government is very, very good in coming up with a very comprehensive set of directions. So basic issue that we are facing there is that they have actually allowed to open. So from day after tomorrow, from Thursday onwards, staff can go to campus. Students still can't. But we are hearing that maybe beginning of June, they will allow the students to come to campus as well in Malaysia, not in Australia yet. So what we have done there is that we are looking into each and every space in our campus and making it compliant with social distancing. So all that modeling, all that suggestions has been done. We have developed protocols so that we can take mandatory and random temperatures. We can monitor and report COVID cases or somebody who has been in contact with somebody with COVID and all that. There are flow charts, what to do if symptoms are spotted. And if, let's say, there are restrictions on quarantining somebody after travel or infection, we have actually created a safe part in a hostel where the students can be kept. And of course, all this is reported back to our task force for further action. So now to summarize, I'll bring it all together. So this is the timeline. We were able to act very fast using this approach to business continuity and our experience in online education over the last 8 years. Luckily, our semester begins in March, and we were noticing things happening in China in sort of December time. So in January, we formed an incident management group with the senior decision makers from the university. We started to inform staff and students through emails and created a live blog. And then we started to look into study plans as well, that if things really get disrupted, then how can we change the study plans? And then in February, we started to send video messages to students and then sorting out if they are somewhere else in another country, what do we do with them? And then how to stay healthy in that country. And then in March, teaching started. But then we created 1 week when we said that we are pausing the teaching so that staff members can move their teaching online, and then following week we started again. And now April and May, everybody is more or less settling down into this mode, and we have created a hashtag Swinburne at home so that they can share their stories and learn from each other. We are creating as much help as we can give to students. Now to finish, there are some key takeaways here. As I feel that forming a COVID task force with all decision makers, which meets very frequently and as needed, is very important in this. And that decision-making principle has to be there, that who makes the decision, how that decision is made, and it has to be made in a very timely fashion. And it has to be mindful of the vulnerability of the people and system. It has to be implemented, and I think collegial working together is the only way to deliver it very quickly. We have to have online provision for support for staff and students, and we have to have a single source of truth. You don't want 10 people telling 10 different stories to students or staff. And then very good quality web page, wiki pages, frequently asked questions, even for staff members. If a student asks something, they can respond in one particular voice and single message. So that is basically all I wanted to say, and happy to take some questions now or later, and happy to help out in any way possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Kapoor. And because of the paucity of time, we are deferring the questions. Either we'll take it later toward the end of the sessions, or offline to you. We have noted down taking the questions from all the audiences. Thank you so much, sir. I'll go to the next speaker with a request. It will be a Professor Stephen Odenwald, but I'll request time to squeeze it because there is an address of our Honorable Prime Minister today at 8 p.m. So that will be restricting us to finish by 8. So I'll request to take up 10 minutes or even lesser. Professor Stephen Odenwald is a teacher and researcher in the field of physical man-machine interaction and sports engineering. After his graduation in 1997, he received his PhD degree in 2001 in the field of lightweight composite structure. 2004, he was appointed assistant professor, and in 2011, full professor for sports equipment and technology at Kamenz University of Technology, Germany. His research interests are sensor-based characterization, of man-machine environment interaction in the field testing and mechanical simulation for testing sports equipment and medical devices. To promote technology transfer, he founded the STEM-based Research Center, Human-Centered Engineering in 2015, focusing on the development of measuring system and data acquisition systems. His current profile includes Dean of Study Program in Sports Engineering and Director of STEM-based Research Center. Professor Stephen Odenwald, and request to take 10 minutes. Please.
I give my best, but I first have to ask Professor Kapoor to stop his screen sharing so that I can come forward. Thank you so much. So thank you so much for this kind introduction, Honorable Chancellor and Vice Chancellors, respected colleagues, dear students, good afternoon and namaste to all of you. I feel very honored to be invited to speak on the situation of German universities in Corona and post-Corona times. I would like to start my talk with a brief, and I keep it very brief, introduction to Chemnitz and its University of Technology. This is Chemnitz, the location of Chemnitz, and like several other cities, we also pretend to be located in the very center of Europe. The state of Saxony is a prospering region, and Chemnitz is the industrial heart, which drives the economic growth of the whole region. Chemnitz is used to overcome crises. In the last century, in the 20th century, Chemnitz recovered from at least 2 major setbacks. During the last days of World War II, over 90% of the city center was destroyed. And as you see on the pictures, it was very nicely rebuilt during the next years. Then there were 60 years of socialist regime. The city was then called Karl Marx City. You see his head on the upper left corner. This is a monument placed in the center of the city. Everyone was happy that 30 years ago, the two parts of Germany were reunited. But this reunion of the divided Germany resulted in a loss of 80% of industrial jobs in the region of Chemnitz. Now the city is recovered in traditional and new fields of technology like mechanical engineering, automotive, and micro-nano systems. And since 180 years, the University of Chemnitz is the pivotal point for science, research, and academic education, located in several places throughout the city. With these words of introduction, I would like to turn to today's major question. How could a new normal in higher and technical education look like? So let's start talking about Corona. In Germany, the situation is, it just looks like that we're in a post-Corona situation indeed. I say it seems to be. Regulations are changed, so no one knows if there is a second wave coming. Germany was first hit by the infections in early March. The classes which were planned from April 1st onwards were cancelled by March 11th, and the following week it was announced that the whole university campus would be shut down. So it really looked like on these pictures of some of the university buildings, no people, no students, no employees are there. After March 20th, so we were left with only 10 days till regular start of classes. And we were in a pretty similar situation like my colleagues reported before. So what did that mean? We had to send 2,000 employees from one day to the next into home office. 11,000 students were waiting for lectures to start. Several hundred graduate students were dependent on further experiments to finish their thesis. 160 professorships were cut off from their facilities to perform research and education. But nevertheless, on April 1st, we were able to deliver 700 courses which started using various e-learning formats. The resources for e-learning content management systems were drastically enhanced, and also the support resources for staff and students were offered in large numbers. So we came from the situation that we teach in large lecture halls. Today, we're in a situation that everyone's sitting at home, learning for himself. And on the right-hand side of the slide, I showed the plans for prospective situation with social distancing possible, but students still can come on the campus. So we managed to start the lectures, but one question remained: how to offer practical lessons, lectures. And the approach we took is twofold. So at the moment, practical lectures requiring stationary equipment can take place in small groups with intensive hygiene measures. And the other thing is, in my personal point of view, much more interesting. Many colleagues are about to invent practical experiments which could be done at home by students themselves using latest technology, smartphones, their own laptops, and mobile data analysis software. Besides the summer semester courses, which are running at the moment, the admission procedure for the winter term 2021 already started. For our international programs, which are shown on this slide, our admission through our national service provider UniAssessed is running. So we are looking forward to offer for new students the international study programs of the faculties of natural sciences, mathematics, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. But there is still a big but, because I have no idea today about how to answer questions like how will the international students be able to start with their studies in autumn? Will the admitted international students be allowed to enter in our country? That depends strongly on the national situations, the situation in our country and the home country of our coming students. Will companies accept interns again soon? Because mostly all of the companies stopped taking interns at the moment. I don't know, but this will strongly depend on the field of industry. Some fields, some industries, some companies will benefit from the situation, and some will continue and run into deeper trouble still. Another discussion is about the academic calendar. When will the winter term actually start? This is still under debate amongst German universities. But one thing which I really know and can say is that for sure there will be still highly skilled and highly motivated graduates from Chemnitz University of Technology also in the coming semesters. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Alvida and be blessed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Stephen. Thank you very much. I'll go to the next speaker, Professor Sanjay Govind Dhande Sahab. Professor Dhande is an Indian engineer and educationist. He was the director of IIT Kanpur from year 2016. Professor Dhande is the chairman, Board of Governors of National Institute of Technology, Delhi, and NIIE, Mumbai. Professor Dhande was the founder director of PDPM IIITDM, Jabalpur. Presently, he is a member of Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister of India. Dande, sir, has worked in the field of computer-aided design, rapid prototyping, rapid tooling, and reverse engineering, autolay, and innovative CAD technology. Is used by several aircraft manufacturers around the world and for the construction of light combat aircraft in India. He was honored with Padam Shri in 2013. I request Professor Sanjay Govindhande, sir.
So can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I will try to restrict my talk in 10 minutes, as you have said to the earlier speaker. And I thought that this is a heavy summer season, and therefore looking at the peacocks is much more beautiful compared to many other things that we are doing. I guess the COVID situation has brought the three participants together. The first one is the society, the second one is the state, which is the government, and the third one is the academia, where most of us are there. The society, of course, has got the COVID situation on hand, which is impacting all walks of life, whether it is not only the healthcare, but education, judiciary, and you name it, and every walk of life is impacted because of the COVID situation.
Professor Dande, okay. Now your screen is okay. Fine. Please.
Can I?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
So the state has got two major responsibilities. Number one is that they have to provide the education or the taxes they collect from us, and also to facilitate the international cooperation. I'm very thankful to all of you for having this as an international webinar, because we are learning from each other. We are trying to understand from each other. And from academia, particularly in India, we have got very different set of problems, and I would like to address those problems. First thing is that we have got a very large number of cohorts in our education system. In fact, if you look at the American graduation, is 1/10 of the graduation from India. So obviously we are dealing with very large system, and that has to be taken care of. In fact, the affiliated college culture doesn't exist in many other institutions, where many other countries. In India, we do have a very large affiliated college culture, and that has to be taken care of in this COVID-19 situation. We also have got a shortage of faculty and staff, and that is going to get accentuated further because of this COVID-19 situation. And already we are facing the poor quality standards, and this has been given to us all the time by industry, and this may even get accentuated because of this COVID-19 situation. So the three problems that I have mentioned over here are the major issues that were there before COVID. Now they will get accentuated because of the COVID. The next one. The new education initiative, I call it not simply a technology issue, it's really a non-technology issue, because technology is just a component of it. The hardware and the software is just a part of it. But we have to use the digital technology as the backbone or as a platform. The implementation issues are very important, and that these are some of the important issues, namely that all the students must have the connectivity and must have the devices. Am I audible? Professor Kansal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Audible.
All right. So the availability of connectivity and the availability of devices to all students remains a major challenge for rolling out the digital education or online education in India. The second one is that, and this is very important, that the faculty members have very high inertia. They don't want to change. They don't want to really understand. They don't want to learn sometimes what are the new technologies, what are the new tools. In fact, they have forgotten to be a student. As a matter of fact, a good teacher is a good student first, and then only he is a good teacher or she is a good teacher. Obviously, we need to give the technical support to the student, to the faculty, and therefore it's very important for the academic institutions to provide the support to faculty for them to get on to this new paradigm. And second thing, is that we have got variety of hardware and variety of software. Some amount of standardization may be required at the college level, because many times one classroom is using one platform and the other teacher is using another platform and the third teacher is using the third platform. The students are confused, the administrators are confused, the teachers are always confused in some sense. So you will find that this is not going to work. You got to standardize, and for which I think the core team is required at the college level as well as at the university level. The immediate problems that we are facing is that we have left this semester, the present semester, in some half-baked manner, and therefore how to complete the academic session of the present semester is the one issue. How to complete the examinations is also a part of that issue. Then how to start the academic session in the next coming June, July or August. Now we have been told that we will be starting on 1st of September for the new students and 1st of August for the old students. But all that, whether 1st of August or 1st of September, are not very far off, and we will need to get ourselves prepared for that. What are the long-term solutions? We can take care of this present year, but we must also understand that we have to understand in a long term, because we are not going to go back to the old fashion. And therefore, this is an opportunity for us to change the academics in India in some sense. The next one, please. Yeah, I would say that there is a most important part is the ethics. The students and the faculty have to have an honors code. This is something very unusual, but I consider the honors code is a very important aspect, because strict adherence to ethical practices and ethical understanding is now far more important at this point in time. I also feel that when calamities like these come, the students have to become socially sensitive. I remember at one time when I was in the college, the National Cadet Corps was made compulsory for all of us for some calamity that happened at that time. Similarly, today, I think we must make sure that variety of options are available to the students to learn something beyond the professional education of medicine or engineering or law or management. To some extent, the para administration or the law and order situation, students got to be a part of the law and order situation. They got to know how to make sure that the law and order is implemented. After all, the police is a human being. And now we are seeing that the police are getting infected, the police are getting tired, and the police are also human beings in some sense with the families. We need to have, I remember when I was in school, there used to be a paramedical activity called St. John's Ambulance. I think similar to a paramedical St. John's Ambulance, I think we should start some activities in the colleges where the students can learn some basic medical principles to some extent. Also, some paralegal activities are required. I think we do have the National Cadet Corps, but that has to be transformed completely. We do have the National Social Service, again, which has to be transformed. And I consider there are two more important services that are required. One is the National Education Service. This is something very important to me. And National Education Service will also create the young people who will eventually, or maybe some of them, will get into academic profession later on. And National Infrastructure Services, managing the power plants, managing the water resources, managing the dams, etc., are very important functions of the society. The students have to be sensitized for these activities also. So this society-based education should come in as a transformation in our education in some sense. Next one, please. So the curriculum is classical education, professional education, society-based education, and personal education. I think all the four components are important. I will not go into the details. The psychology or the suicides that we see is indicated in the personal education. Society-based education I have mentioned. Professional education is something we are all familiar. Classical education relates to critical thinking as well as creative thinking. But the most important part is that everybody got to be a student, even though you have formally left the college education. Even at the age of 50, even at the age of 40, even at the age of 60, or even at the age of 70, everybody must be a student, and lifelong learning is an extremely important aspect that can change the situation of the society. Also doesn't mean that we should neglect sports, we should neglect culture, or we should neglect communication aspects, which are also very important in the young age of the students. The next one, please. Yeah, so this is the most important part, that is the pedagogy. I guess in this new paradigm, we have to have 2 classes per week and 3 practice sessions per week. I do consider that the teachers, if they are going to be online, we need not have for every section 1 teacher. We can have the whole batch of 480 students. They can be provided asynchronous teaching with a champion or with a lead teacher, and the other teachers can be made free for conducting the practice sessions. The synchronous lectures can be done by a champion, or it could be asynchronous, and they will be twice a week, while the engagement of the academic associates or other faculty members for practice will be thrice a week. So you are engaging 5 hours a week for the course, and that is good enough. Individual homework and teamwork will be the backbone of the academic work. I found out that in online education, homework is an extremely important part. And assuming that the students are ethically well educated, then you will find that the homework and grading the homework, giving the feedback to the students on time is extremely important. If all these things happen, then you will find that the online education will become successful. Otherwise, it will be again another story of failure. Explaining the concepts in the class, explaining the homework, showing some illustrative case studies or examples will be the agenda for the 3 sessions that I am mentioning over here. Submission of the work is extremely important, and that will carry the weight, and it has to be graded within 48 hours and turn around and given back to the students. And what is to be given back to the students is explained in the next slide, please. So the assessment is another parameter which has to change now completely because of online education. The project related work will have more weightage. The multiple choice questions, the longhand questions, the questions on the online, etc. will be there. The homework assessment will be a positive feedback mechanism. We should not use a guillotine of pass and fail, but we should use this as a mechanism of specific suggestions for the students to improve, give them the opportunities for improvement. Failure is based on not performing even after giving the opportunities. And this is very important, that there will be failures, but the failures are not because you didn't memorize right or you didn't memorize wrong, but the failure is because you did not do the work that was expected of you. Teachers keep on showing the way forward. That is more important. The teachers are not here as the guillotine. They are here to give you the way forward. And even if you are slipping, you can be told that if you do this, this, you can move forward. Pass can have 2 or 3 grades. Obviously, if you pass, you will be graded in some fashion. But the failures need not be considered as the guillotine failures. They should be considered as the failures of performance, that the students did not work at all in this particular course. Sound investment. This is a very important aspect of transforming the students. Now we want to do it through online education. I think this is an opportunity for the academic world to transform it as to how we are going to use this these 4 years to make the sound investment in the students, which will pay them back in whole life. Next one, please. So I think digital infrastructure are the lessons for India. We must have, there is, in fact, I attended a course by Professor Pant, who conducts his academic work, who gives the courses on the mobile phone. And I must say that these are wonderful, wonderful things that are happening. So it's not simply that you have to go on to a laptop only to give the lecture. You can do it on the WhatsApp, and you can give the video, you can give the audio, you can also write down the notes and give it to them on your mobile phone. Digital bandwidth on the campus has to be improved. I think that is very important. Classrooms with digital technology for demonstration and discussions are required for at least whenever we do the physical. A learning management system, some of the colleges have it. Some of the colleges don't have it, so the university has to standardize on these matters. Also, the ERP is required at this stage. Some people have got it, some people don't have it. Again, we need to have very important aspect. The students pick up the technology very rapidly, but the teachers and administrators are sometimes the question, because the inertia in these two elements is very high. Technology for attendance, parent counseling. Parent counseling in India is very important, and according to me, these two aspects, namely performance tracking and parent counseling, should get transformed completely because of online education. Also, the technology of library, laboratory, and examinations will undergo a dramatic change, as the lectures will go through a dramatic change. Time is not sufficient. Otherwise, we could discuss how the laboratories, examinations, and library can get transformed in online form. The misuse of, I don't believe that technology is the only solution. There are problems, but now we cannot just get frozen because of the problems. We got to move forward, as Professor Kapoor and Professor Tripathi have mentioned. We got to move forward now, and there will be problems which we can solve as we go along. The next one. So what are the lessons for AKTU? I think the AKTU has to form a team with a leader called the Dean for New Education Initiative. I don't call it as the online education. I call it as a new education initiative. And there has to be a Dean for New Education Initiative. And that Dean has to drive this agenda totally. Start a training program. Now, this is very important, that we got to have the training program for teachers. It's not simply technology, but it is the psychology of the teachers, the psychology of the students, the psychology of interaction, and the project work, how to conduct these online educational delivery systems. That's very important to be trained for the teachers. Also, we must have the orientation program for the students in terms of ethics, in terms of psychology, and at least bringing them up to a standard platform of technology, even though they may be familiar with some of the technology. Launch a massive awareness campaign throughout the university. This is also very important, that if you are going to go through online education, you must make everybody aware of it, particularly the affiliated colleges. And changes in affiliated colleges and constituent colleges is massive. That massive change at the affiliated college level and the constituent college level has to happen. Then only the university will be able to transform completely. Use of technology with awareness of human mind is necessary. Again, I will emphasize that it is not the technology, it is the non-technology part which is very important in making this a success. Provide a technical support. Technical support to students, technical support to faculty is extremely important, and we got to have a cadre of people who will provide the technical services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dhande, sir. We'll go to the next speaker, and I'll repeat, we have, paucity of time because there is an address of Honorable Prime Minister at 8 p.m., say roughly around 30-35 minutes from now. Professor Thomas Stone is a principal of Technology University, Dublin College campus. He also leads the university response to the COVID-19 virus. His academic and professional qualifications are in accountancy, taxation, and strategic management. TU Dublin was established on 1st January 2019 as the first technological university in Ireland. Thomas was the president of the University Institute of Technology, Dublin, from 2014 as one of the 3 founding institutions of the new university. TU Dublin has 28,500 students and is the largest university in Ireland. It provides academic programs and research in computer science, business, humanities, health sciences, and engineering from graduate to doctorate level. Professor Thomas Stone, please. And I request to squeeze up your time to 7 to 8 minutes, please.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and particularly to the Honorary Chancellor, Vice Chancellor, and Pro-Vice Chancellor, and other colleagues on the webinar. And many thanks for your invitation to speak with you today. I did send my PowerPoint presentation forward. I'll see if I can share it with you, or else it could be available to be shown on the screen.
Abhishek, please share.
Okay. If you can see that, I hope. I'll take that, I hope, as a yes. As you can see, I'll go through the presentation and I'll do my best to be within the 7 minutes as requested. You can see there my presentation is structured in 3 sections. A very brief overview in terms of where we are in Ireland with regard to the COVID-19 epidemic, and also an overview of Technological University Dublin in our short history. I will then place higher education in the context of the national perspective and approaches taken to COVID-19 in particular. And finally, then a few slides or slide or two with regard to the TU Dublin and particular responses that we have taken and are taking in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. Just very clearly, very quickly, Ireland, where are we? We're a little bit away from India. And as you can see, we are on the western side of Europe over there and the Atlantic Ocean, and much smaller in size and population, of course, than India and many of the countries joining this call. But we have a population of approximately 5 million. And as I said, we're there on the edge of Europe. We see ourselves as particularly a significant part of everything we do is European focused, and as a member of the European Union, and obviously that's very important from our graduates and our students' point of view, and obviously one of the key English-speaking countries in the Eurozone at the moment, and also very attractive to international students in terms of particularly culture and language. In terms of Technological University Dublin, at a glance, as we said, 28,500 students. Our student base is distributed over STEM, approximately 38%, business and law, 23%, arts and humanities, 19%, services, 11%, and health and welfare, 9%. And we have about 3,350 international students spread over 3 campuses in the Dublin area, Dublin being the capital of Ireland, in Tallaght, Blanchardstown and City. Just a little photo or two in terms of links with India. You can see there in the very big middle photograph there was a launch of an event with AWS, one of our key partners in computer science, and just a little link with India in terms of our Taoiseach, who's our Prime Minister, is Leo Varadkar, whose father and his family now lives in Ireland with us and actually was born in Mumbai. So we do have significant links with India, as not just academic ones, and we're delighted to have Prime Minister Varadkar as our leader in government. The national perspective in which COVID-19 is being addressed at the moment, just an overview in the context of where we are in terms of the infection rate, the death rate, and so on, just to put us into context. And you can see there versus the world, Europe and Ireland and India itself. And I think the point here really is to show where we may be respectively on the curve in respect of the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously I'm talking to you here from my home, which is just outside Dublin, because Ireland is in effect at the moment on lockdown for the last number of weeks. In terms of the Irish government response, and particularly taking a lead in terms of higher education, the issue has been dealt with through the Prime Minister's office, the Departments of Health and the Departments of Education and Skills in government, as well as the overall authority for our health service, which is the Health Service Executive. The timeline, as the pandemic has gone across the world, it really kind of came to Ireland in terms of being acted upon in January 27th this year. And that was when a special group was established in government to actually look at how to deal with this particular pandemic. Our first case, actually, in terms of a confirmed case, was the 29th of February, and the 11th of March, unfortunately, was our first death case. On the 13th of March, all schools and universities closed and haven't reopened yet, and are not planning on being reopened until at least August, if not September. So we're totally closed down in that regard. The rate of transmission at the peak in terms of the virus here in Ireland was in excess of 4. and the rate of transmission now, currently as I speak, is in around 0.5. So we would hope we're coming at the end in terms of its transmission across the community. In terms of higher education, in terms of education, I just thought I'd mention that the Irish government made particular provision for supporting international students here in Ireland at the time, particularly those who may have been working part-time. And they included them as qualifying for what we call the COVID-19 payment of about €350 per week, effectively an unemployment payment. And we also covered every international student with regard to any COVID-19 health issues, whether their insurance covered it or not, in our national healthcare system. So they could go to all our hospitals and doctors and get cover and a treatment, I should say, if they had COVID-19 at any point during their stay here. We currently are in a point of looking at reopening the country, and there are 5 phases suggested. The first being next week on the 18th of May. And as it applies to universities, we're only allowing staff go back on campus to work specifically on generating material for remote learning only, more than likely for the next semester. And in terms of assuming the transmission or zero rate is held down over the next number of weeks and months, the university and school staff will be open in what we call the new normal on the 10th of August. But all of that depends on how the actual virus is kept down in terms of its transmission rate over the next few weeks. I've included a reference there, a document that came out by the Irish government there at last weekend, which refers to return to work safely protocol. And that will be the document, the protocol that the universities will be using to form the basis for our activities regarding health, safety, social distancing activities starting in August, September 2020. And it might be useful to colleagues on this webinar in terms of looking at the type of issues that are being addressed there without going into the detail of them today. The second aspect of this in terms of the national issue is that the government set up on the 20th of March a specific group of leaders within higher education and government to look at the type of issues that COVID-19 was dealing with. So it was a steering group in the middle there, you see, which was chaired by the highest public servant dealing with higher education in the country, and all of the universities and leaders in higher education were represented on that. And there's a group of about 15 people on that. Subgroups were established in terms of the following: immediate operational coordination. So looking at immediate issues from a national level and feeding down into the higher education structures, in other words, the universities and colleges. What were the immediate things we had to do in terms of closing things down? What did we have to do in terms of making sure our standards were maintained in terms of the new delivery model, which is primarily online? And also reorganizing the assessment of our students coming to the end of this semester, which again is not in the form of an end of term exam and in the normal way in a hall or in a classroom. It was going to be online, which we in TU Dublin are currently going through as we speak. There were then other groups looking at apprenticeships issues. We had a large group looking at quality, integrity, and reputation of the Irish system of higher education, and particularly the awards that we give this year with regard to our graduates coming out of the system, given the disruption the virus has caused operations. International higher education was also another group looking at particular issues regarding COVID-19. The students that were currently here at the time of the outbreak, our students who are abroad, and now going into a period where we're looking at how the international students who would have liked to come to us in September, will they come, and what will be the basis for the provision of our programs in that period. English language education is significant within our sector as well as the finance issues relating to the increased costs and loss of revenue in the universities relating to the virus. And then also a particular look at disadvantage and equality issues arising from access, for example, by students not having good and fast broadband, not having enough laptops, not having enough devices. And one of the areas and outputs of that was linking up with the telecommunications companies in Ireland, where they actually removed all the data upload and download limits on broadband in terms of all the contracts that are here in Ireland at the moment because of COVID-19, in order to help people who are now obviously working online more than they ever did before. The TU Dublin response to COVID-19 in particular terms. The President Principals Group, there's been 6 people on it. We have daily meetings, normally at 9 o'clock in the morning, looking at the specific issues relating to COVID-19. And that looks at both communications down within the organization structure as well as receiving reports and hopefully making decisions with regard to the university as a whole. We also have a university COVID-19 group, which was set up in February, well in advance of any cases in Ireland. The type of issues we looked at and are looking at in that group included national information, which was feeding in from the previous presentation and groups I mentioned before, and feedback from the President's group in terms of decisions and recommendations going up to the President and Principals group. Medical health, safety and welfare updates from all of our campuses, all our areas, campus-specific issues and COVID-19. Communications was very important, both the staff, both the students, social media. Websites were set up and information was uploaded daily at the beginning and probably weekly now in terms of issues, in terms of student support, but also national issues regarding the appropriate practices in terms of hand washing, social distancing, and all of those things. And we found in TU Dublin, the students themselves were a great help, particularly in the communications flow to and from not only students, but generally from the university to all our partners. ICT and device availability to support online activities. Again, it brought up issues in terms of broadband as well as laptop availability. And also that was for staff and for students. Estates, our campuses, international students and travel. We were trying to get students home from abroad, our students, and also there were students here from countries around the world, including India, who wanted to return and some actually wished to stay when the lockdown actually occurred. We also, as a national issue, staff redeployment from our universities to work in areas that were crucial to our health service, particularly in terms of the analysis of samples relating to COVID-19. Our laboratories, some of our buildings were designated and offered to the government in respect of meeting the national emergency of COVID-19. We also offered facilities and equipment to the government in respect of dealing with these particular issues on a sharing basis, and a portal was opened in respect of offering that. So for example, in one of our buildings at the moment, in order to support social distancing, we have the police force in Dublin occupying the building in support of their activities. In terms of the academic side, in terms of the issues that we've dealt with and are dealing with, particularly through our academic colleagues, we introduced and had a plan in terms of every program we were delivering to make it online when the crisis hit us. We have an assessment plan for every module we were delivering across the university on the basis of no terminal written examinations, and that was put in place and approved. We got academic approval for the revised assessment strategies, and we also introduced what we call an enhanced academic support policy for students who were particularly disadvantaged with regard to the COVID-19 implications, whether it be access to broadband, access to online support through our virtual learning environments, or for some other issues. So we have offered a deferral process in respect of these assessments, and actually at no cost to the students. We are now entering a phase in terms of academic planning for the next year. And in that regard, we have 8 work streams currently as I speak working. And the areas that they're working on, and this is primarily again looking at the new year opening issues. It would be student focus, international students and the experience, undergrad and postgrad teaching and learning, apprenticeships, estates, virtual working and teaching environment, admissions, research, well-being. And there's probably 100+ people currently working on that.
Professor Thomas, please conclude. Please.
Okay, and that, as it turns out, is the last slide. So again, thank you, and sorry for the little bit of a rush. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Professor Thomas, and with your kind support and being generous to help us. So I'll request to the next, our keynote, Professor M.P. Punia. Professor M.P. Punia, sir, is specialized in the field of mechanical engineering, and he's an alumnus of IIT Delhi. He is currently the Vice Chairman of All India Council of Technical Education, New Delhi. Before this assignment, he was the Director of NITTR, Chandigarh. Professor Punia, sir.
Thank you very much for giving opportunity. It's a wonderful time to interact.
I request to take 5 minutes, sir, please.
Very brief, but sometime I need, because we are having a very big country, huge education system we people are running, and whole world is looking towards us. World's population is 7 billion. Out of that one, we are 1.3. 7 divided by 1.3, if I'm doing the figure which we are receiving, it is less than 6. Means every sixth person on this planet is an Indian, and our presence everywhere in the world it is. So our education system which we people are running, the graduates which are coming every year, every day, whole world is looking towards our graduates, our doctors, our professionals, our engineering graduates. So it's a very, very tough time, in fact, for Indian education system. We are having around 1,000 universities in the country, 50,000 colleges we are having. Every day, 5 new institutes are coming up. Every day, 5,000 new students are registering into our education system. So for us, as a regulator, the biggest challenge which we are having at present now, that how this admission process it has to be completed, how the examination which is supposed to be completed by end of April, how it will be completed. So the admission part, even new institutes which are entering in technical education, when I'm saying technical education, it is engineering, polytechnic, MBA, MCA, pharmacy, hotel management, architecture. Around 400 new institutes are supposed to come into our system. As a regulator, we'll have to assess their facilities, their infrastructure, what exactly their plans are. Can we give approval to them for starting that new institute? Huge infrastructure already in the country we are having, where in technical education we can accommodate around 3.2 million students every year. And some new institutes are entering into this one. Around 600,000 teachers are working in our system. Now, if we are switching over towards this online education, then first of all, we'll have to think what exactly we'll be doing with this available hard infrastructure which it has been created during years. How our teachers will be utilized into that one. So again, it means every point which we are discussing here, very serious decision, very different decisions we people will have to take, so that acceptability of our graduates, their confidence building, their academic results, their learning, everything can be enhanced. Then only acceptance of our graduates will be. Otherwise, it will be a very, very difficult time. At present, the initiatives which we people have taken, first of all, Professor Dande Sahab was saying that 1st September we have declared that it will be the time for the new students, which will be starting from first year, and the old students which are studying, their examination will be over by 31st July, and 1st August will be starting time for that one. Hope everything will be smooth, everything will be fine. We'll be able to start our semesters in time. The initiatives which Government of India has taken, probably it was some sense to us. Biggest platform in the name of SWAM we are having. It has been created by Government of India with the help of Microsoft. At present, around 2,000 engineering and technology courses are available on that one. During these last 2 months, what we people have done, being regulator, according to our model curriculum, we have aligned all those NPTEL lectures which were available in 4 quadrants with our model curriculum. And even tomorrow, if we are supposed to start this online education, if IT infrastructure is available, if mindset of the teachers according to that one is available, we people are ready to launch around 2,000 engineering courses online. It is largest in the world. Same time, we have made partner of some private edtech companies also. Their contents where artificial intelligence component is there, concept of personalized learning, component of adaptive learning, it is there, so that even monitoring of the students for their learning abilities, monitoring can be done, even assessment of the students online, it can be done. At present, with us, 13 companies are associated. They have given more than 40 products to us, where students are getting their registration. It is basically for their employability enhancement, and even those courses can be taken as credit course also. So that platform in the form of NEET, National Education Alliance for Technologies, that portal is available. Same time, we have brought up one policy for technical teachers training program. It is mandatory teachers training. 8 modules it has been created. It is related to improving the pedagogical skills of the teachers, their capabilities to plan their instructions, capabilities to deliver inside the classes, even through online. ICT skills, enhancing the ICT skills. It is one of the module into this teachers training policy which we have brought into this one. Even values part, which Professor Dande Sahab was saying, that how moral values, universal human values can be inculcated into these trends. Those modules we have kept into this one. Then free products, AICT has done again remarkable work during 2.5 months. That enormous number of the products which are available online may be related to soft skills, may be related to languages, may be related to coding, may be related to some hands-on part. Those 49 products, free products, we have brought into a portal that is free-india.org. So even students can take the benefit of that one. At present, around 10 million students are registered. They are taking benefit of this one. Finally, I'll be congratulating whole team, whole community of teachers. At present, we are saying warriors in the form of our Honorable Prime Minister, most strongest person in the world. The next one, our police, third one, doctors, and fourth pillar, which I'm saying, it is our academicians, our teachers. During last 3 months, the way they have connected their students with limited facilities, because our IT infrastructure may not be like these European countries which they are having, but still with that limited resources, the wonders which they have done. And second part, which Professor Sanjay Dande Sahab was saying, that connect of society, connect of state and academicians. Many of the academic institutes, being regulator, I am knowing thousands of our academic institutes, they are supporting our people to society, to downtrodden, even for the purpose of quarantine. That infrastructure, it has been extended to society. So that much dedication it has been shown by our academic institute. Hope in time to come, the problem phase will go out. The preparedness which we are having, hope it will do wonders. And probably under the leadership of Professor Vinay Pathak ji, UP will become a role model, where I think thousands of courses online already you people are running. You are at a very high repute now. You are carrying, and AICT with you. Hope in time to come, the joint efforts which we people are doing, the suggestions which are coming at global level, will be aligning everything, will be integrating everything, and new paradigm in education system will bring. Best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thanks to everybody, and our principal secretary has told us that she will not speak for the benefit of all the. I want to thank. She wanted some questions to be taken, and I think Vineet will ask some question. But one question which everybody has got, and it has also come to my mind, I will start, and anybody or any panelist or Professor Satish Tripathi or Professor Dande can answer that thing. People are asking about the research. How we will do research on the on-site kind of a thing. We can do labs virtually. And the other question which asking is that what we learn in a course space, can it be just done by the online or not? These are the two pertinent questions I'm seeing from the chat. Professor Dhande, sir, you want to answer?
The research is a very vast area, and you will have to have another international webinar on research only. Actually, it is something, and research is one topic and research is another topic, are two different things. So one size fits all will not work for research. But there were some comments made by some speakers which are important. But based on that, I would say that presently focus on the research that you can do at home or working at home. That is the possibility. And also the laboratories have to start working in social distance mode. Both these options have possibilities. How to do it? I think I normally say, give me another cup of tea. Now I cannot say that, but you have to have another seminar or webinar for it. We will discuss it more in detail at that time, actually.
So I completely agree with Dr. Dhande. We are actually, and many of our colleagues are doing the same thing. We want to open the research labs. Some research can be done from home, but some have to be in the labs, and we are following all the guidelines. We are, it's an environment which is also easy to control, because who's coming in, who's going out. So it might be a place where you do the social distancing at some level, have the protective equipment, and allow the students to come, and you can monitor those students and researchers. So I think it's really one of the easier part in terms of monitoring it. in terms of really testing and all that. So I think that's something we want to open first. I mean, that's the goal.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your response. There is one more question which has come up. Faculties are being educated. They are being sensitized to all new models of teaching. Maybe it's a WhatsApp teaching to the crudest form, to the Zoom teaching, to the Google Meet, to the Google Coursera models and other things. But what about the students' engagement and the students' seriousness and their peer learning and collaborative assignments? How do you see this, and what could be the solution to this? Professor Kapoor would like to take it.
Yes, I can take a sort of philosophical approach to that first. So what I say is that things change with the society. So I remember when I was studying, I was very keen to write every note down from the blackboard myself. Things changed. We started to give out handouts, fully written, partially written, to make sure students don't bunk the class. And now I find my children, they are just playing on their laptop or on their mobile phone, but they are learning all the time. So from my perspective, things have changed a lot. So I think new students will find it easier. I think face-to-face teaching is wonderful. Having personal contact is wonderful. India is okay. But in the Western world, a lot of marriages are done during this time. Students go to campus, find a partner. So that interaction is needed. Now, coming to that very specific question, we had started about 8 years back a fully online university called Swinburne Seek Online with our partner Seek. And that became the fastest growing, largest university in Australia. What we found there was a couple of things. One, that in a classroom, slots of 50 minutes. But if you do things online, typically we find that it's about 8 minutes concentration. You give bite-sized teaching, and if you can assess it at that time, then you can make it very, very effective. We experimented with the idea of having these small groups together, and there are programs available which students can use to find out. And we had students more or less all over the state. Those students were studying during the whole time zone. So some were studying late in night because that is the only time they had available, and they could, through those apps, find out who is studying at that time. So we should not be thinking in terms of only 20-year-old students coming and studying and making their friends. It opens the education to much bigger target group as well. So my thoughts are that yes, it's a disruption. It will create some problems, but it will provide a lot of opportunities as well. I have a lot of faith in technology and a lot of faith in the youngsters that they will be able to study on their devices also very much.
Professor Stephen, the last question of the session, I would like to take it from you. The students' assessment on their learning, whether they are fit to go to the field and worthy of the degree. How do you address this issue at that? Professor Stephen, please.
Yeah, here in Chemnitz University, so every kind of oral examination and assessment is already done online. We try to switch to homework and things like that, submitting reports, how do you call it? Yeah, compilation of different bits and pieces of learning content, which acquired the students on their own, should be documented. We try to have formats like this as much as possible. And where it's not possible, we are about to set up a system for online assessment in written form, which is inbuilt in the most learning content management systems. So we will have a good mix, but we will see much more submission of reports and homework.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I think because of the paucity, because we are just touching 8, and the address of the Honorable Prime Minister is going to start in the next 1.5 minutes. So I'll request.
Beneath, can we have the permission of every panelist to give their slides and share with everybody? I think that's the request everybody has made. So that's what you can request with.
Yes,
And then,
yes. From my side, yes.
Sure.
all right. Professor Richard, what about you? Can we?
Beg your pardon, that's absolutely fine. Yes.
Okay. Professor Stephen? Okay, thank you. So thank you very much. We have the permission. We can share the slides. We'll be putting on the website of the university. Thank you all the panelists. I'll request Dr. Manish to formally give the vote of thanks, please. Quickly, in a minute, please.
Thank you.
Dr. Manish, please.
Ben Patel, Vice Chancellor, AKTU, Professor Pathak. It was a wonderful webinar, and in fact, it seems that we have moved to the next level. What a wonderful evening this was. On behalf of university and on behalf of all the organizers, I particularly thank Professor S.K. Tripathi, President, University of Buffalo, for giving the complete perspective of the challenges that universities are facing and the solutions that he is proposing to his university. Professor Richard Follett, Deputy Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Sussex. Being an alumnus of University of Sussex, you took me back into the memory lane. And in fact, the pedagogical revolution that you talked about was a wonderful, idea and the context. Professor Ajay Kapoor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Swinburne University, Australia. Professor Stephen from Germany. They both given a very nice perspective of the internationalization of the education and the context. That was wonderful. Professor Dhande, who is a guiding force behind most of the activities of the university, he is being instrumental in most of the policy decisions that we take. Once again, very thanks to Professor Dhande for giving the Indian context of the post-COVID situation, and particularly engaging students in various co-curricular and societal engagements such as NSS, NCC, and paramedical training and all. That was really innovative one and a new idea. Professor Thomas, Professor MP Punia, Vice Chancellor, Vice Chairman of AICT, presented what a great challenge Indian context and Indian education system, because of the enormous volume faces, and particularly post-COVID, it actually presents the great challenges. I am very thankful to our Principal Secretary for her participation and patient listener. I am hopeful that there will be a moment when we will be able to listen her as well. Professor Pathak, Vice Chancellor of AKTU, who took the lead to organize this, deserves a great applaud, and we all have learned a lot through this webinar. All the technical team and all the technical persons behind the organization of this seminar, who worked behind the curtains tirelessly for last 15 days, I know, deserve a great applaud and thank you very much. We are running short of time, else I would have spoken a lot on other, as well. Thanks so much for your time and participation, and particularly, those who have actually engaged themselves in off hours in reference to Indian time. Thanks very much once again.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.